some of the old songs. For old time's sake. As time goes by.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Fishing from Scratch. Today we're not technically at home. We're camping this weekend. I had some of my good friends from Georgia have come up here to the mountains to camp for the weekend, and we're about an hour or so away from the house, from the homestead. Right now, where I'm sitting, this is actually my property. I had to come back to the house for a minute to pick up some stuff that I forgot because I got in a rush to go camping to meet up with everybody. And I did what I usually do, and that's forget some of the most important things. And that got me thinking, well, hell, I do that fishing all the time. So I wanted to cover one of the things that I forget most often, and a good way to make something in its stead. So, like most people, I'll get a little ahead of myself sometimes. My cousin will call me and said, "Hey man, let's go fishing." I'll throw my stuff in the truck and drive out and forget, just like with the camping situation, the important things, the more important things. I'll have my rod and I'll have some tackle, but I'll get out there and I won't have a net. And more importantly, I won't have any way of transporting the fish. And I can tell you right now, it sucks when you get out and you're wanting to keep fish and you get out into the woods and you start catching some and you have nothing to carry them with. You know, you need something to transport them around. It's something you can keep them in the water to keep them fresh, you know, till you get back to your vehicle that you can store them, get them on ice. So what we typically do is what I'm going to show you today. This was shown to me by my cousin, but it's not something that he or I came up with. This has been around since man's been eating fish, I would assume. I'm sure Native Americans did something exactly like what I'm going to, or close to like what I'm going to do today. But we're going to make a stringer. That's the, or you can call it a stringer, you can call it a stick, but you'll see what I'm getting at here in a moment. We're making a stringer today, and the one thing that you do have to make this happen, this is something that I don't ever go anywhere out in the woods with, is a knife. So we'll have to get our knife, and we'll have to conjure one up here. If you ever go out into the woods and find yourself without a knife, the first thing that I would suggest that you do is get the hell back out of the woods and go get a knife, because you don't belong in the woods without one. That's just, basic knowledge, because you don't ever know what's going to happen. And that's one of the most handy tools that you can literally just fit in your pocket. So let's get after this and let's see what we can make do. Well, this is awkward, but after making that knife comment that I just made, I just realized that my pocket knife is in the cup holder of my shitbox edition Toyota pickup truck, and I don't want to leave the woods, but that's why you never, even if you don't have your knife, you never leave the house without a knife. That's what a prison wallet's for. Thank you, Deadpool. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can't manifest one of these things. Oh, bear with me. This is going to be painful. I apologize for the vulgarity of this. Hold on. Whoo, buddy. I need to eat more fiber. Good night. Well, there we go. It's still pretty clean. So, what the hell are we looking for? Well, we're looking for a stick. And I'm in the woods. I'm surrounded by a plethora of sticks. And yes, that word means exactly what I think it means. But we're looking for a certain shape, certain size. You know, you'll have to adjust the size of this thing. Oop, that's a mud hole. You'll have to adjust the size of this thing, you know, depending on what kind of fish that you're after. You know, up here in the mountains, I'm usually after pretty small-mouthed fish, trout, smallmouth, crappie, bluegill, stuff like that. So I don't have to have as wide of a V in the stick as you would if you were keeping like largemouth or something like that. But I'll show you exactly what we're looking for when I find it. Here we go. Here's a good one. It's got a little crook in it, but that'll be quite all right. The main thing we're looking for is where it goes out and has a nice wide split. So let's get this booger out of this tree and we'll get to making this contraption. Ah, hey, it doesn't even stink. It's amazing. So let's just take this thing off right close to the base here. Come here. And there we go. Yay, a stick. Let's turn it into more than a stick. Well, okay, we've got our knife and we've got our stick. The first thing we're going to need to do is get the leaves off of it. Easiest way to do it, in my opinion, find something kind of hard, like another tree. You don't want to hurt a live tree, so find like a dead tree or a log or something, or a wooden fence post will work just fine. Just lay your limbs across it, hack off the excess. But make sure to leave the Y longer than you think you need, because you don't want to miscalculate and have to do this all over again. So what we're going to do from here is trim the rest of this up, smooth up these edges a little bit, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, the first thing that we need to get at is this is the butt end of the stringer, is what we're going to call it. What we need to do here is we need to round the end of this down to where it's not a sharp point, because you're going to be carrying this by hand. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but I like to slip and fall every chance I get because it's fun. And you don't want to get stuck with your own creation. So we'll trim this off a little bit and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alrighty, so this is what we've got here. Round it up the end till it's smooth and it's not gonna stab a hole in me when I fall on it. The other thing you need to do is you need to trim down both sides of it, kind of bring it out to a wedge. And the reason for that is to go through the fish's gill and its mouth. If you've got a real blunt edge, depending on what size fish that you're catching, you may have a hard time getting it through the gills, which we'll cover that later in the video. Show you exactly what I'm talking about, but I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, by the end of the video it will. So we'll continue on from there. Okay, on the Y end, the rule of thumb with this is you want your V or your Y, whatever you want to call it, V, Y, whatever, it doesn't matter. What you want is you want it to be about 5 times the width of the widest fish mouth that you can feasibly catch. And so it doesn't slide off. That's what the whole purpose of this thing is. And you'll see later when I actually catch a fish, if I'll have to go, we got to go catch a fish. Ooh, water's so bad today. We'll make do. Anyways, but yeah, you want it about 5 times wider than the widest fish mouth that you can perceive yourself catching. That way it doesn't slide off. And because if it slides off, you've taken a stick and created a stick, and that's not exactly what we need. But the other thing is you want to bevel the edges, the ends of your Y a little bit, and like I said, it's mainly because it doesn't poke you, and two, it keeps it from splitting and fraying if you drop it on the ground and stuff like that. Same with this end. Rounding it makes it safer to transport, and two, if you drop it on the ground, it won't fray at the end as much and keep you from being able to get it through the fish's gills. But yeah, that's it. All right, the last step of this thing that I don't want to forget, because this is kind of important, is really look over the thing and make sure that it doesn't have any small limbs or anything that'll catch the fish, because we're going to have that fish slide down the stick and get hung on the Y down there, and you don't want it to get hung up. But if you pick your stick correctly, I mean, you're gonna look for stuff that doesn't have a bunch of limbs hanging off of it and a bunch of little knots to hold everything up. So the stick doesn't have to be perfectly straight. That doesn't really matter. I typically like to use mountain laurel, but the one thing I want to say and I want to stress, if you're out in the national forest or on public land or wherever you're at, just make sure that you're getting something that's not protected. You're not harming a protected plant. There's a lot of stuff out there that you don't need to mess with. If you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't know where you're at as far as legality reasons, just find something dead. You can pick up, there's dead limbs and stuff all over the place. Just pick one that fits the bill, is long enough that you can easily tote it and it not be too short and the fish be bumping up against you when you're walking with it, and that it has a wide enough V. And just give it a little flex test, flex it a little bit, make sure it's strong enough that it's not just going to snap from being dead and dry. But other than that, just make sure you're doing stuff right. As I've said in almost every video, take care of this stuff or it won't be there when you want it. Well, here we go. The nice finished product. We spent 15 minutes finding and making a stick. Yeah, that doesn't look very impressive, but it is something, and it is a tool, and I will show you how to use it. It's a lot more useful than you think. All right, well, we're here on one of my favorite rivers at one of my absolute favorite spots here, and we're gonna stop in and make a quick cast and see if we can't catch a fish of some sort to put on the stringer so I can show you how it works. Let's see what happens. All right, here we go. All right, well, here's our fish and here's our stringer, and this is how this contraption works. You take the beveled end of the stick that we made, you put it behind the gill plate, you run it straight through the fish's mouth, slide it down the stick, and it gets caught on the V down there. And that's how it goes. Good way to transport it. I'm sure the Native Americans used something like this to carry their fish around when they caught them, ever how they caught them. But like I said, every time I go out and I forget a stringer, which is half the time I go out, I'll cobble one of these things together. And you know what? It works pretty dang good. So I think that's going to be the episode for today. I want to get back to camp and spend some time with my friends and just relax for the weekend. So as I always say here at Fishing from Scratch, I appreciate you watching. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up, throw me a subscribe, and above all else, get out and accomplish something. Go out and have fun. Get out in nature and enjoy it. Get off your duff and go do something. And I'll catch you next time.